lessons here, and one of my students is going to be helping me in a few minutes do some pinning today. This is going to be the topic of this whole first tape, and it's the most important part of wrestling in my opinion. I want to give you just a moment or two of philosophy here, because that's what drives everything. The pinning, in my opinion, is the easiest thing in wrestling for a person to do if they know how to do it and they have some practice. It takes less of an athlete to be a good pinner than it does any of the other phases of wrestling. So it's something that the whole team could do. And it's very important that a team is a team of pinners, because then there's always hope in matches. If someone is behind, especially to a much better guy, as long as you don't get pinned and as long as you don't get teched, if you're able to pin, then you always have hope until the end of the match. That's something that you don't have if you're not a pinner. If you're wrestling someone who is definitely much better than you, that is more than 5 or 6 points better than you in a match, you have no hope if you want to beat that person. You're just going to have to be very lucky on some things. With being a pinner, you do have hope. There's always a possibility that you can catch that person once during a match on their side or on their back, and that might be the end of the match. That doesn't mean you're a better wrestler than they are. That just means you're a pinner. So that's very important to have this on your team. Also, we found out that once we started putting a lot of emphasis on pinning, we didn't get pinned as often, and that's very important team-wise. So that if we're wrestling in a dual meet situation and we don't have anybody get pinned, that makes it very difficult for the other team to beat us if we have 3, 4, 5 people that can get pins on our team. So it's a great situation. It's the easiest thing in wrestling to do, and I'm going to give you my philosophy on how I go about doing pinning. And when we're doing this today, I'm not going to be going over a lot of leg pins, because those are involved on our legs tape. But I might be referring to those briefly. I may do some of them, but not take the time to explain a lot of them, because that's gone into in depth on the legs tape. So right now, I'm going to ask one of my students here, Abe Cross, to come out and help me out today. Abe, come on over. And we're going to just try to stay around in this general center area of the mat, and go as fast as we can and put as much on the tape as we can today. One of the things that I would like a student of mine to be able to do after a period of time, they should know 40, 50 different pinholes. And as you'll see, you don't have to be extremely powerful or great balance or agile, anything like that, or quick. You've just got to be skillful and understand the psychology of pinning. And I'm just going to tell you the way I look at it. Again, I've borrowed everything. I've cobbled up things, and I like to think of myself as a pragmatist. If I find something that is going to be better an hour from now than what I'm already doing, if I'm convinced of that, then I'll stop doing what I'm doing and start doing that new thing. That's the way I've always tried to look at things. Don't hold anything sacred, and just always be trying to learn more and look for things that are better. And as time goes along, we evolve through things. So today, at this point, we're in September what, 27th of 2003. This is the way I look at it right now. Tomorrow, the 28th, I might learn something that I like even better. So we'll just keep evolving. Okay, a couple things. Abe, would you sit down right in the center there on the tape for me? And I just want to explain a couple quick concepts here. Number one is, let's turn you this way, not sideways. When we pin, we're talking about the shoulder blades, any piece of the shoulder blade. Doesn't have to be the whole blade, just a piece of it, and both of them have to be there for a count of 2 seconds. 1,001, 1,002. In my opinion, the best way to pin somebody is to set them flat on those shoulders, if at all possible, to begin with. Set them on both shoulders. Then it's their job to try to get off. It's my job to try to convince them to stay there just for 2 seconds. So it's much easier to start with the shoulders on the mat than to get them there one at a time. Okay, so number one, set them flat. Number two, in my opinion, the best way to pin somebody is to twist them onto their shoulders. Certain pinning holds may twist them to their shoulders. Not one at a time, but just twist them around so that both shoulders are touching. And the third best way in my opinion, is to roll the person up. And when we roll the person up on the shoulders, that's a very nice situation. Again, we're trying to roll them up on both shoulders at once, if at all possible. Now, if any time we're doing holds that doesn't happen, then we're going to constantly have to be making adjustments. That's just wrestling. But we want to go for the set them flat, twist them, or roll them up. Those are the three best ways in my opinion. None of this one at a time business if we can help it. Okay, that being said, I want to just go over a couple general things about how we like to pin, how we like to think about pinning. Whenever I put him on his back, I'm going to try to tense up my body. We call it a dog bite type thing. If a dog gets a snake or a hold of something, it'll bear down and it'll just put every fiber of its body into that. Well, same here. Whenever I get a guy onto his shoulders, not before and not for very long after, but at the time that I get him on his shoulders, every muscle in my body tenses up, and I want to transmit to this guy a feeling of hold still. I want to convince him, I want to shock him, I want to freeze him. Hold still, hold still. I just want it to be for 2 seconds. Now, at the point that I am doing the dog bite and I sense that I'm not going to be able to hold him, it becomes apparent to me right away, then I relax. I release a lot of those muscles because I can't keep that tenseness for very long. So I release them. I try to use my weight, I try to use my leverage, and then I try to reset the hold. And constantly keep trying to pin him time after time by resetting either that or a different hold. And that's where this family of pinning holds comes in. Everything can be related. So we had another principle in our pinning philosophy, and that is once we get the person on their back, they never get off their back. They may get to one shoulder, they may roll around, they may change positions, but they never get off that pinning situation. We may put a half a dozen or 10 different holds on them during that time period that they're on their back, but they never get back off their back. And eventually we wear them down physically, we wear them down psychologically, and eventually we want them to feel like, I just can't. I can't get out of here. I don't see my way clear of getting out of here. And all we want them to do is think that for about a second. If they're already on their shoulders, we want to have them think that one more second, and then match is over. So that's the way we look at things on our pinning. Dog bite type of a thing, as soon as we get them to the back, once we see that if we think we can pin them, we keep it. If we don't, we relax a little bit, and we just start working our skills, working our holds, reset it, or move into another hold and then dog bite. So we're just constantly adjusting and working on them, and never, never, never let them off their back. That's the way we want it to be. And we want guys to fear us for that. Okay, now, that being said, I'm going to start with a couple things with the legs, even though I said I wasn't going to do legs. This one I didn't go over on the legs tape very much, a very important position called split crotch. So Abe, lay on your back for a second here. And anytime we've done something, let's say I've done a double leg takedown here, and I could just put my weight on him and step in the crotch and post out. Now this is what we call a split crotch position. Two things are important here. Number one is my knees are way wide. Number two, I try to keep my thighs right up close to his top of his thighs or his buttocks. I don't want a lot of space to get in here because the only way you can defeat me is to get a leg through, to get a knee through. So I've got to stay up close to him to keep that blocked off here. The next thing I want to do is I don't want him to be working on my face, so I sort of keep my head turned one way or another here. And as he starts to move around, I like to take my hands and try to slide him up under the shoulders and catch his shoulders here.
So I'm hooking over the top of the shoulders. At that point, I pull the shoulders toward his hips, toward his buttock. My knees are wide. I cram him up in there, and I'm keeping both knees down. If I want to, I can step one leg up, but never two. I don't want to have both knees off the mat. And I'm right in here, and my face is slid up a little bit. Now, if he tries to turn, go ahead and turn, Abe, one way. Look, yeah, okay. I'm going to work on that shoulder. That'd be called the top shoulder. And as he turns, I'm going to try to run my head up inside that. You see how I'm using my forehead on his bicep right there. And now I can match that down, and I step up with one leg. And now I can try to get a pin here. Also, at any time, I can let loose. Like if I'm working on this one shoulder over here, the near shoulder to the camera, then I can take my opposite hand, in this case my left hand, come up and do what we call a facelift. We're going to explain that in a minute, and I start working on that facelift. At that time, I put the knee down that I had up and step up with that left leg. So if I do a left-handed facelift, I'm going with a left-handed step up. And I'm trying to make his ear touch his shoulder. His left ear is trying to touch his right shoulder. Now, if his arm's way across underneath me, I can still do this and pull down. And pull down my cheeks right by his shoulder, and I'm just pulling down on his shoulder like that. And I can pin him right here. I can cram him up and pin him. So this is our split crotch situation. Very nice. You can get into this so many times, and it's very surprising if you start watching for it, how we can get into this. Okay, the next thing is I'll mention about the double grapevine, and I did talk about this in detail on the legs tape, but I'm just going to show it here because we always are watching to get into the double grapevine to finish up. So just lay on your back here. Are you centered pretty well here, Abe?
Yeah.
Okay. As you probably already know, I got poor eyesight, so Abe's going to be helping me with where we get to here. Okay, I'm going to say it this way. I always keep my hands out, never get my hands wound up in his arms. And I make thunder with my feet on the sides, on the inside of my feet, scoop my heels up toward his buttock and put my feet together, just touch him. That means that if he's going to get out of this position, he's in a turtle position, he's going to have to put a foot down, at least one foot. So when he does, I can sense where that foot is. He put his left one down. I'm going to take my right leg, and I'm going to reach around his shins with my laces, and I'm going to start straightening my leg out and grapevining that leg. That's a single grapevine. At the same time, I press my abdomen, my groins right up into his ribs and start straightening that out. If he ever puts his other foot down, I'll double grapevine that. Now, I don't have to do anything with my hands, but I like to take one hand and run it palm down under his neck and flip my thumb side bone, my thumb side blade we call it, up against the base of his skull as I do. And as I do that, I'm going to put my chest on the top side, on his jaw, and I'm going to try to stretch his head, stretch his neck actually, along the mat, make his neck about 3 inches longer, and that's going to take his bridge out pretty well, right there. And I can get a nice pin right up here. As you notice, my groins are way up in his chest. I'm not down by his pelvis at all. And I'm right up into this double grapevine position to pin him. If I ever feel like I'm getting flipped over, I put my feet back together again, and I just wait. So that's our double grapevine. Anytime we can step over, make thunder, scoop our feet up toward his buttock, and encircle his legs, we're into that double grapevine situation. It's a great pinning situation. Now, Abe, from time to time, I'm going to ask Abe how we're doing time-wise here. This is going to be a 2-hour tape, and how many minutes have we gone so far, Abe?
About 14 minutes.
All right, I'm going to try to get cracking here. What I'm going to do is use my right hand a lot. I'm right-handed. I also like to use my right leg a lot when I do things. And I believe that guys, on average, do better if they pin with their right hand. Not that you shouldn't learn to pin the other way too, but I just feel guys are more comfortable if they're right-handed pinning it with the right hand. And so I'm going to ask Abe to spin around here so that you're down this way with your upper body. And I'm going to work on a lot of things with my right hand right now. And let's get you centrally located here. And in fact, yeah, we're good, aren't we? Okay.
All right, let's lay that down here. And I'm going to start, let's slide down toward you. There we go. I want to make sure we get right in the middle of everything here. I'm going to start with our half. And we're going to get working with this, and then we're going to go into the whole family of things here. And so, you know, there's one other thing. I want to back up just a minute. Come back up to your base for just a second, Amy. I'm sorry. Here's what I want people thinking about. Anytime you get a reversal or a takedown, and then the third most common thing would be a breakdown, we want to go into a pinning situation. We want guys to recognize pins. We're not interested in just having a guy break a guy down, ride a guy, put in a pinning hold, and turn him over. We want to see reversals to pins, takedowns to pins, breakdowns to pins. Those are the best times to do that. And that's why we do a lot of work with pins up front, so that every time you learn a reversal, every time you learn a takedown or a breakdown, after that, you also can start thinking about, okay, what does this put me in position for? What kinds of things can I start doing to guys right here? And so that's the way we want to think all the time. We always want to connect one of those movements to a pin, because usually when we get a reversal or a takedown or a breakdown, the other guy pauses just for a fraction of a second. Oftentimes that happens. We want to wrestle through the pause. We want to connect to a pin hold. That will give us our advantage right there. And we'll start getting our pin hold in right at that point, and we'll go ahead and be successful after that. So recognizing is really important for your team, for people on the team. They got to recognize where a pin is. And everybody should help everybody else when they're out on the mat, or even in practice, start pointing out to, you know, when a guy gets a reversal, people should holler out what kind of a pin he's in position to try to do. Now, you say, well, okay, let's say a guy ends up on his base. Let's say I snapped him down or something and he's on his base. Well, that's not in position for a pin. Well, actually it is. And so I want to expose you to a couple of those first. Then we'll get into our family with the half and all that stuff. Okay? How do I think? I want to think, I can't put a guy on his back when I'm back here behind him. But I can have a much better chance if I'm up here sort of perpendicular to the guy. So for example, let's say that I snapped this guy down somehow. Instead of going all the way behind his hips back here, I'm going to cut the journey short and just go part way and go right here. Now, if he starts to turn away from me or something, I've got his near ankle. Like if he starts to turn out that way, I've got his near ankle I can always pick up, or his thigh. So I'll be able to keep control of this guy and grab for something else with my other arm. So keep that in mind. Your near ankle, your near leg is something that we're always going to be using to control the situation, so he doesn't get his shoulders out or he doesn't get his hips out away from me. I can always be grabbing for that near leg. So I'm up here right now. And if a guy's in this position, I'm going to go over two things that are just almost always there, one or the other. And neither one of them are cradles. They're easier than that. Okay, at this point, I'm in position to do what we call Bulldog. I could take either of my legs. In this case, my lead leg would be the one, my closest leg to him would be the one that I would slide under his chest here, my thighs under his chest. That's my base. If I were a little farther back, then the other leg would be just fine. No problem. But if I came from the front, I would hook in with my first leg right there and stop. Now, look what happened. My hands went around like this. My back hand is going to catch, let's move forward or lift up this, but just right low on his thigh, around his hamstring. Okay, that's where it's going to catch. Then my other arm is going to catch all the way across and catch his tricep here. I'm not doing a crossface. I'm just catching the tricep. Now, if I dropped my shoulder and reached under, I could do that also. Usually that's a little easier with my lead leg through. And see, I rest my jaw on his side and I look right back toward his feet, and then I can come up under him with my shoulder. This other way is doable, but you see, I can't get my shoulder under quite as well. Normally, I'll just squat and keep and use my chest square under his ribs. Here, I drop my rear down by my shoes, by my heels, and as I catch, everything's catching at once, and I explode up under him, trying to raise him up, trying to get some altitude. Then, I'm blocking this, so I sort of pull on this arm a little bit, but mostly, I take my left hand, and as I'm driving up with my chest, I'll pull on his right thigh and sort of what we call finger roll. I'll pull and throw it. Pull and let go. And then follow through by posting with my hand on the mat over there. So this is called the Bulldog. The Bulldog. I'm bulldogging this man. So I'm just catching, I'm popping him up, and I'm pulling with this hand and popping him over, and see this arm came over and caught. Now, as he fell, my arm that had his tricep, my right arm, now encircles both of his arms for a short time. If I want to keep that, then I'm going to have to do something, or else he's going to pull his top arm out because it's sort of loose in there. So that, and I always keep my hand on his tricep. I never move it. Okay, I think I said bicep. Did I say that before? Bicep. I mean tricep. If I said bicep, I'm always catching his tricep. Just that this guy's got big biceps too. Okay, so when we do this, I'm exploding up and over. So this is the Bulldog. So here's how it would look. Let's say if I snap somebody down, especially if his head and shoulders were down a little bit, and I came around and he started to come up with his head and shoulders, I'd be right under him, and I just pop and catch right here. Now he's in a world of hurt. I can do a number of things in our family of pinning holds on him. Okay, so that was not only a breakdown, but it was a positioning movement to get him into a pin situation. The other one is I'm going to simply just let my arm hang over. Now, you know, this looks a little goofy, but watch what I'm doing. I go elbow deep here, or I can stay up here and start prying with my thumb blade up. This is called a neck pry. My forearm is across his neck, and my fist is underneath his armpit, and I'm prying up. But the trick to all of this, whether I do that or just let my arm hang around his neck deep with my elbow behind his neck, either one of those is fine, because the key is pushing all my weight toward his shoulders to post him like that, which takes the weight off his hips, which means I can pick up his ankle on the near ankle, and I'm going to sort of run sideways around him. I'm going to run with no knees on the mat. No knees on the mat, and all he's got is a foot to hop with. And he'll hop, and then I'll toss him down. Abe, let's come back this way a little way, and let's have you face the camera a little bit so that I can run you around and still be in the camera. I'm just going to drop my arm around his neck. I'm going to pick up the inside ankle. I must get off of both knees. I'm going to be pushing with my feet toward his hands, toward his head, toward his hands, so he gets posted. I'm going to pick his ankle up in the air. I'm going to run, and when he falls to his hip, then I let go of his ankle and post with that hand again that was picking up the ankle. So here I am. As I do this, he might come up on his one foot a little bit and hop, and then he's going to fall right there. And I put weight toward his shoulders. Now, he's on his side. If I wanted to, I could slide in and split crotch him. We've already learned to do this. Catch his top shoulder, start pulling it down, facelift, step up on the side of the facelift, start pinning this guy right here. So this is a wonderful situation for that. If I don't want to do that, I can hook a leg, and that's our step through Turk, and we've covered that on the legs tape, and we've got a multitude of things we can do out of the step through Turk. If we don't want to do that, we can come back and start going into an inside cradle with our head is blocking his hip joint. We can do good things with that, and just a ton of stuff that we can start doing out of that position right there. Very nice stuff. So that was a breakdown also. And all we're talking about that being is we're going to pick up the inside ankle and drive toward his head and run it. You can put any name you want with that, but basically I just call it spinning the guy down. You're going to spin him down to his side, then you're going to start working on it. Okay, position us here, Mr. A, for that half Nelson now.
Tape's right here.
Okay, great. So face the stairs, lay down on your left side, and here we go. We're going to go in for the half, and the way that I like to have, I'm teaching everything with my right hand right now. If I'm going to do the half, I want to get on the crown of the head, not on the neck. I want to get on the crown of the head, and I want to make my arm, my elbow, go under his elbow, and I want to slide toward his elbow. I'm not trying to knock him over on his back right now. This is important. As I extend his arm, I mess him up right there. So go to his elbow, and at the same time, sort of start prying and curling his head under as well with your hand on the crown. So anytime I've gotten over to the side that he's facing, then I can start doing this. Now, don't start putting in the half when you're way back behind the guy or when you're on the other side. That's not a good situation. You put the half on when you're on the side that he's facing. You get him to face. Okay, so here we are. I walk toward his elbow. Now when I bend his crown under, I can do what we call sink the half. And my elbow slides right down around the back of his neck, nice and tight, and that is sunk. Again, I have not tried to put him on his back. Notice where my other hand is. It's always back here before I start to put him on his back. Never over here on this side. Never, never, never. Always end up with it over here. I'm going to use that to help lift him and walk around and drop him over my thumb side blade. My thumb side blade is going to go high on his back, just under his shoulder blades, just below his shoulder blades, and that's going to bind him, and he's not going to be able to get his arm through. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to lift him. Watch how I lift. I step up with my lead leg, my right leg in this case. I pull my right elbow up toward my ribs, and that's my lift, and it's a very easy lift. So he's fighting to get back down. I'm not going to try to push him over. I'm going to lift. So we've got to have this lift. Now, with the half Nelson, this is a very high movement. So I'm going to make a giant step with my right leg, and as I do, my elbow will drop down on the mat like that, and I'm going to put him over my arm. Okay, so where are we tape-wise? We're good here, aren't we? Okay, so I'm going to lift up, and I'm going to make a big step around in a circle. I want to make a 90-degree turn. He's going to come over, and right there, both shoulders are going to hit the mat at the same time. Now, I've got my thumb side blade under him, and my knee, I like to bring my knee right up toward his head and drop my rear down, drop my thigh down right there. And right there is where I'll be doing dog bite, big time. Now, let's say that I didn't pin him right away. He'll probably fight back toward me. And so at that point, if he fights back toward me, I realize I'm not going to do dog bite anymore. So I'm just going to sit through now. I'm going to lift the elbow, see it come up. I leave my arm underneath. Sit through with my left leg now, my bottom leg. Go ahead and get your arm right out of there so they can see. Put it out here. There we go. Now I sit through, and at this time, another quarter turn. Boom! Right there. And I make the sound boom right now to let you know that I really deliver a blow. I don't want to do it to Abe so hard here. But I really attack the mat with the shoulders, and as soon as I hit the mat, I really squeeze right there. Now, the guy your size, a lot of times, sit up here, Abe. Guy your size, a lot of times, spin around. If you have a half on, you can actually reach under, the arm that's under, you can actually lock hands under there. I don't hardly ever do that, but it's possible to do that. And then you can squeeze that way. Don't need to, you can pin them. Now, how many times can I lift and quarter turn and slap them down? Infinite number of times. I've never seen anybody that did this properly have to go longer than 4 or possibly 5 times. Maybe it was only 4. But after each time, the guy comes up less and less and less, and you get a pin. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to use a half Nelson to pin somebody. Now, let's get ourselves positioned here, Abe. Is that the, over there, is that the camera?
Yeah, I'm facing the camera.
Okay, great. Okay, let's have you lay back down on your side again, and let's say that I have done my my work here and I'm a little over too far. This is another concept I'm going to teach right now. Let's say I'm a little over too far, my head's going down and he's starting to roll that way. I have to let go of my pinning arm because my other arm is stuck under his back. So I let go of the half, post. Now what I do is lift myself off him. It's important that I get my ribs off of this man. And this is an adjustment that we do a lot of times in wrestling. Suck in your air, lift your ribs off, drop back a few ribs. So here I go. And drop back. Now I made an adjustment. I don't have the half anymore, but I still have one of our pinning hold family, or pinning family holds on him. And this is called, if I turn my thumb blade up and lock my hands down here in wrestler's grip, this is called a side bear hug. It's not going to pin him, but I'll tell you what, it slows him down and it takes a little steam out of him. Now what I'm really watching for here is, what is he going to do with his arms? Is he going to keep trying to turn that way? Am I going to hang him with the reverse half? Is he going to come back this way? Am I going to catch him with a bundle? Am I going to catch him with a facelift? Am I going to put the half on, reset the half again? What kinds of things am I going to do? And this side bear hug is giving me an opportunity to study this situation and keep him on his back. He's not getting off. He's still in the family. Right now he's in the family. Okay, so that's the way we always adjust, and we always have to let loose of the pinning arm to make it a good adjustment when our other arm is blocked off underneath. Okay, another situation is, let's see here, have your head going right toward the camera there. There we go. I've got this half. In fact, we're going to move it around a little bit more. And here's something that often happens. And by the way, when you lift this guy, invariably I'll have a student say, boy, you know that lift and set, I lifted a guy and all of a sudden he came right over on top of me, you know, and here I am on my back situation. And that may happen once or twice when you're first starting to do this. But after a while you get in a rhythm, it never happens. Never ever happens. But at first, don't be upset if it does when you're just starting to mess with it a little bit. Okay, I've got my half here. Let's say that we're laying down here, and as I go to lift, let's say he takes this hand, this is a common thing, and he'll try to block my leg, like that. See, now I can't step, see, and I can't finish my pin if I keep trying to go around. So what I do is a very simple thing. I'm going to knock his arm out of the way and then trap it. So he's starting to block me off here. I'm not going to try to push him over. I'm just going to, as I go to lift like this, I'll use my other leg to knock his arm off. I sit under with my thigh. I try to pop him above his elbow. Try to pop him above his elbow, right under there, so be blocking my leg. See, boom, see how easy it is to block that? And as I do, then I'll pull my other leg underneath and trap it. So I'm here, he's trying to push off of my leg. I block this up and then trap it, and now he can't ever get that arm back. Can't get it back. I'm going to pin him right here. I dog bite and pin him. Remember that thumb side blade gets turned up against his ribs. All right, position this again with your head, I guess, laying this way here toward the steps. And here's our facelift now. You can do two kinds of facelifts. One facelift is going to be over his top arm, the other one is under. They're both fine. Just remember, you can't take a guy's head and make it come back toward his spine a lot. That's not what you want to do. With a facelift, I'm trying to put an arm under his jaw so that my bicep goes under his chin. My forearm goes up the side of his head, just in front of his ear, and my palm goes right flat on the top of his head. I eventually, when I'm pinning him, want this top ear, in this case it's going to be his left ear, is going to be touching, his right ear is going to be touching his right shoulder when I finish. So I want it to kiss his shoulder. That kinks the spine, makes it difficult for him to move out of this position. But the rest of the hold is very similar to what we did with the half Nelson. The only difference is it's a little bit lower hold. I don't step up with my lead leg like I did before, I'll just sit through with my other leg right from the get-go. So right now, I'm going to go under his top arm and run up here, put my hand on the top of the head. Do not make this hand go around behind his head or on the side or any other place than on the top, because you want to have this lift sideways with his head, and you can't do it any other way effectively. So it's got to be up here, and you're under his chin with your muscle, with your bicep. Okay, he's trying to turn back down, and this makes it good. If he's trying to fight down, this makes it better, because he'll be stiff. See my hand? There's my post, and as I start to lift him up in the air this way, I'm setting under. Lift, set, see, he's stiff like a board. Now look at my arm and back. It's going to go under his shoulder blades right here. So now as he goes down, there's my quarter turn. Now my chest is moving up toward his neck, and now I keep my hand right where it was and trying to make his ear go over and kiss that shoulder right there. Now let's say he fights right back. He'll always have his top shoulder. That'll be the one that'll keep up usually. So he fights back. I realize I'm not going to pin him right there, so I sort of settle back a little bit, but I keep my position. Now he's fighting to turn down. All of a sudden, I sit through. And the same thing applies. If he's ever trying to use this arm to block my leg, I'm always popping up under it with the other thigh. Okay, just let it hang out there for right now, Mr. Abe. And at this point, I'm lifting. Now, this time, as I'm lifting him up and I'm sitting under, making my quarter turn, I'm going to make sure that this thumb side blade slides up real close to the bottom of his shoulder blades. Real close, not down near his waist at all, but real high. Now I set that baby over there, and now I slide, the second time through, I slide way up here, way up by my chest is just about over his face right now, and his neck, and it's a lot easier to pin him when I'm higher up on him like this. Now, I could do this any number of times, and sooner or later, I will pin him with this hold, or slide off to something else, like a half Nelson or something. Okay, so that's our facelift, and that was under the arm, but you can do the same motion, everything's identical, with going over his arm and just catching under his chin and with your muscle and doing it that way. Okay, that's our facelift. What's our time now? How many minutes so far?
About 37 minutes.
All right, 37 minutes. Boy, I gotta hustle. Okay, back to our same position again, our same starting position here. Good. And now this time, I'm going to do our bundle, our arm bundle situation. Now, we already saw how we could knock the guy down and end up in this position. Let's move you back this way just a little bit, Abe, because I'm going to be moving with this. Okay, so my palm, this is very, very important. Guys are not going to want to do this. They're going to start sliding up and hooking with the wrist. That's a no-no. Don't do that. You want to put your palm on the tricep, and never take it off. Keep it there so you can pull with your fingers, always. And now in this situation, his arm is trapped in there. It's not very tight, not going to be in there tight at all. So I've got two good choices. One is to come around with my top hand, transfer around, pull up with my hand on his left tricep with my right hand, and change hands right there. So now I'm holding with my left hand momentarily, and I'm working on that tricep with my left hand. And if his arm is up, I could shoot a half right now with my right hand. If his top arm is up, which is right arm, I can shoot a half. Or a facelift under there. Very nice. If he's down, then I wouldn't use that option. I wouldn't do that option. I would just lock hands. I would just put one hand on top of the other. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna lock hands. I'm sorry about this. I backslid a little bit. That was years ago. Okay. What I actually do is get rid of his elbows, and so I use my left hand to push on his top tricep just above his elbow, the back of his arm just above his top elbow. My other hand is already down with my hand on that tricep, so I can yank that forward. I can yank that elbow forward, and I push the other one. And what I do is I yank and push. I drop down on my front thigh. My lead thigh in this case is my right thigh. So I'm going to drop straight down on it. Straight down on the mat, nice and flat. Now look where his elbows are. They're past my ribs. Now, I don't want him to get his elbows back in between me and him, or else he'll block me off. He'll fight me with his elbows. So I push and yank, drop. He can never get them back as long as I don't get up, as long as I don't move from this position and come up. And so now I've got him trapped. I'm still holding with my right hand on his tricep. My left hand that pushed now comes out and just pulses on the mat. So it stays over on the same side that I'm on, and it just pulses on the mat. It's going to help push. And I push with my other foot and my other hand. So left hand, left foot, push. My right thigh stays right down on the mat. Don't turn sideways. I keep facing the mat, and I start sliding around toward his head. So here's one big slide. Look what happened just with one slide. He's already turned. Now, see, I stay down low, and I take one more slide, and I start coming up now. See, I'm up on my knees now, and I step over his head with my right knee, and go ahead and get your arm out of there, and I just try to pinch right here. Pinch my knees together. Now watch my rear. It sits back toward my heels. That makes his arms stretch out, and if he's going to try to bridge, I'm going to pinch his head, dig my toes in as he starts to bridge. Go ahead, and I'm going to pull him back a little bit. See, look at my hand for a post and everything. Now, I know that he's going to move around. He might even get his head out of there. He might spin around and even get his head out of there. I'll just follow him and keep trying to pinch his head, sit back and stretch, and just ride the rapids with this guy. And I'm holding with one arm all the time. So I got to be active with my legs, try to pinch my knees on the side of the head and pull him back. Eventually, I'm going to move into a pin. See, this is not a pin, it's just a score right now. You got to know what it's worth. My pin is going to be this. Eventually, when he starts getting tired, I've got my right arm on him. I'm going to walk him over toward my right arm and take my free hand, my free arm, and wrap it around under his neck, right there. Round under there. And once I get it under there, I'll lock hands and put my chest right over my face, right over the middle of his ribs, and squeeze everything right down and try to drop down with my hips. Drop my load right there. Now, right at that point, his shoulders are on the mat. I'm going to squeeze him right down for a pin. Look where his arms were. Put them where, see? And that's all getting mashed right down into his face, right there. I wait until he's gotten a little tired before I do that. Then when I sense that the time is right, I do that. Now that's how you could run that around and turn a man and pin him right there. I showed you that one. It's a legitimate one. Anybody can learn to do that. Personally, I like the one that I'm going to show you better. And that's why I saved it for the last here. It's very similar to what we've already learned. So we don't have to learn a whole lot more. And that is, I like to walk around and put them over that arm again. And pin them that way. I start with a bear hug, a side bear hug. When they're over there, I squeeze them. And then I can end up coming off to a facelift to finally get the pin at the end. But here's how I turn them. I've got my hand on that tricep again, and I do what is, this is the lowest of the three. The half Nelson was the highest movement of the legs. The facelift was the middle one. It's sitting through and putting them over. Now this one is really sort of I stay the lowest of all, and this is like a backward crab position, if you've ever done that before in gym class or something. Here's how it works. I've got my hand on his tricep, his arm up above is loose. Before he pulls that arm out, I'm going to sit through real close to him. So my thigh is right under my hand almost there. Now, that starts getting this a little bit tighter here, but before he can pull that out, I'm going to lift him, and everything's going to get a little bit little bit tighter situation. Look at my hand, it's posting there. My leg is real close to his head, and look at my other foot. It moves up in front too. I got three things that are going to post on the mat. I'm laying back so I can feel his hip joint right in the back of my ribs, just below my shoulder blade actually, okay? And I'm going to do my backwards crab, get him up in the air, quarter turn him, lay him down over this blade, thumb side blade again. And I'm going to be doing a crab while I walk. And I'm going to get my thigh underneath him a little bit. So here we go. I start pulling up, and here he is. See, he comes right up. Comes right up. Walk, walk, walk. Quarter turn. See, I'm dropping him right now. Now, this hand that had the tricep comes down and locks the other hand as I turn and face him right here. And squeeze. I got a bear hug on him, a side bear hug. I'm facing him with it. Now, I don't expect to pin him the first time with this. But as he fights back, I've taken some steam out of this man. And I can do this a number of times. Let's say he fights back. I come right back and catch his tricep again. He's right back in the same boat. So here we go again. And if he starts getting loose here, I can come up and I can smack that down. I can smack that down and overhook it again. And right here, walk, 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 over that again. Now I slide way up toward his face. I'm up higher this time. My arm is right up by his shoulder blades, and I'm squeezing. Now, you can tell, turn around a little bit here. You can tell that this guy fights less and less each time you put him on his back. No limit to the number of times you can put him on his back. Now, when he gets to a point where he's just barely keeping that off the mat, and you're squeezing him here, and you see that, that's the sign to come off. Go right, put your hand right on top of that head, drop your elbow down, and try to do that face lift. Try to make that head go right over there and touch. Make that ear go over and touch that shoulder. That's going to make that shoulder come down. That's going to be the end. That'll be the pin right there. And that's the psychology of it. Okay, so that's what we do when we got the arm bundle. Okay, Mr. Abe, I want you to lay with your head facing that way now, right along here. Okay, here's what we're going to do. Face the camera. Come back. Yeah, on this side of the table. Good. Now I want everybody to see what the deal is here. We've been talking about the arm bundle. That's over with both arms. Right there. But now, if I'm just in here, like that, with one hand under there, we just refer to that as bottom arm wrestling. And I'll show you how to get into that real quick here in a minute, and how we actually can go from the wrist up into that. See, this is nice. Now at this point, anytime I've got that trapped and he's trying to turn down, I've got to post, I've got to get over here with my knees, and the first thing I always try to do is to take I'm trapping him with my right hand on his left tricep. I want to drop my right shoulder under his top armpit, his left armpit, his right armpit, and I try to push up against that right armpit. As I do, I'm just pulling with my fingers and my palm, taking the slack out of that bottom arm. Now, at this point, I can change hands. I can wrap both of them up, and here I am in that arm bundle, and I can do whatever choices I want right there. And by the way, on any of these holds, when I've got the guy trapped up in here, could I just pick up the back of his tricep and step into here and do a step-through Turk on any of these, and then start doing face lifts and stuff? Sure I can. Okay? Or, if you like split crotch, step-through Turk, and then fall over against this hip, and then split it right there. Now you're up into your split crotch situation. Step-through Turk to a split crotch. Now, catch the top shoulder, start stepping up, face lifting. This is just a great, great thing. You don't have to be a big athlete to do this. You can be very, very normal, very, very common person, and you can be a big-time pinner with this. Okay, so here I am. I've got this trap. We know I can transfer hands and wrap. We know I can transfer hands and shoot a half. We know I can transfer hands and go face lift. Or chicken wing, if I like chicken wing things. Okay, so we got all that stuff right there. Now, another possibility of this, and this is so goofy, is to drop my shoulder under there, and instead of having my hand back there, I'm going to keep it on the same side again. Now, he's trying to turn down, I'm pulling a slack out. Now watch. I just slide my knees in a circle, keep posting and pushing. He's trying to turn down, try to turn down, and I'm going to turn it. It's crazy. Okay, Abe, go ahead and turn back. Okay, you're trying to turn down toward the mat. Try to turn down toward the mat, down toward the mat, and there he is. He's going to end up going over. Now eventually, if I can step over his head with my lead knee, you see it on the mat here. At that point, see, I've still got my palm, even though it's twisted a little bit, I've still got my palm on his tricep right there. Now once I've got him over to there, we've got something called well, it's just called a twister. Okay, I keep my palm on him. How's the camera over here? Yeah. Okay, I've got my palm on him, and what's going to happen is I block his head, I never let loose of this palm, and if his other arm is still across here, then at this point, see, I'm on my knee, I've stepped up over here, I take my other arm, run it through, elbow to elbow, elbow to elbow. At that point, I come down on my knee, pinch his head with both knees, and I just twist, and I try to keep my hand still on his tricep. I still try to hold his tricep. All right, and I twist right there, twist to the right in this case, because I had my right hand that was doing the tricep. And this is a twister, and boy, I can hold those shoulders right on the mat with this. Okay, let's look at this once more. I'm going here. Usually what happens when I walk around and he goes to his back, let your arm come out a little bit. As he goes to his back, lots of times he'll roll through. And so here's going to be my reverse half that we'll do in just a second. But if he keeps trying to turn down, as I've stepped over, maybe his shoulder, I should have said this, maybe his shoulder drops down past mine. Go ahead and drop it down. There it is. Go ahead and get all the way through big time. There we go. I'll just press down with my shoulder, step over the head. See how his arm is trapped right there? His forearm. Step over. Don't let loose of your wrist, of your hand hold on his tricep. Scoop up elbow to elbow. Come back with your knees, pinch, and twist them right there. That's a pin. Actually, it's called a pretzel. I'm not doing well with my names today. It's a twisting motion, but the hold itself is called a pretzel. I called it the twister earlier. Okay, go ahead and get us lined up here, Abe. Are we pretty good?
Yeah, I'm laying it on there.
Okay. What's our time going here? How many minutes so far?
53 minutes.
All right. Now, we're getting through a lot of the basics. Okay, that was a little bonus there. I wasn't even going to put that pretzel in, but it just occurred to me that that's a possibility. Okay, coming back to this bottom arm stuff now. Let me show you how nice this is. Lay so you're facing the camera on your belly. Right there it is. Now watch this. Let's say I've got an arm bar. And actually, even before that, let's say that somehow this guy's turned on his side here. If we're willing to reach in with our top hand here, willing to reach in, see right there I can purchase that. I can hook that right now. See, I've got my hand right under that. So at this point, all I got to do is beat him over there to that side. Here's the way you beat a guy. You don't go step by step and walk around and take your time. Once I catch that, I'm going to drive my chest on top of his shoulders, trying to pinch him into the mat and post him right there so he can't get turned very well. As I do that, I'm going to pivot on that with my chest. My hand goes to the mat to push off with. Both feet push off the mat, and I try to just get over to that side as quick as I can. I don't want to go way up in the air. I want to go just high enough to clear him and get my feet over here as quick as possible. Now I've trapped him on that side. He's in trouble. Now at this point, what do I like to do? I like to drop my shoulder under there, start driving up. I could change hands, start doing a half facelift. I could wrap for a bundle. I could do good stuff. I could lift up, go into crotch for step through Turk, split crotch, whatever. Got this guy in trouble. And what was it? We were just wrestling. He was on his side. I just happened to reach through and scoop that. Just happened to catch it right here. Then immediately drive forward, jump over, and now he's in trouble. See, my chest is holding his ribs back right now. Got him in trouble right now. Okay, so that's the way we can think about that part. Now, let's say that we've got an arm bar. Here we go. We still good on our tape here?
Right about at my knees.
Okay, let's move back so we make sure everybody's seeing us here. Okay, here we are. I got a single arm bar on. Now watch. I always put my hand behind the tricep. Don't be unless you're setting him up for something special. Don't be letting this bottom guy get a hold of your wrist. We'll talk about that on down wrestling, because that's what you want to do. You want to control that wrist. So I'm going to keep this here. You can't get any wrist control right there. Now, at this point, I got that arm bar on, and he's laying there. All of a sudden, I might drive up into him and take my other hand and put it right on that wrist. Now, I could have a 2-on-1 arm bar also, but right now, I'm going to pull my one arm out, post, drive forward with my shoulder and chest again. See how I'm starting to post him up there? Jump over again real quick. And even though he's starting to turn down, I've still got his wrist, right? All right, that's still not his tricep. I got to get higher. So as soon as I get over here, I got a hold of his wrist. I'm going to drop back and blast him with my chest. I try to drop back away from his body and get my chest under here. Even though he's trying to turn down, if I do it quick, I can pop under there. So I'm in here, he's starting to turn down, pop, right there. And as I do, watch what my hand over here is going to do. As I drop back, my hand starts coming around to this near side, and grab for his elbow. So as I drop back to pop, my left hand has come around and is ready to grab under there as soon as I hit him with my chest. So I'm here, I come back, pop, and there's the elbow. See, I'm pulling with my right hand. There's the elbow, I got him. I got that tricep. Now, if he rolls on through, I got a reverse half. If he fights back down, which he usually does, I wrap him. I got my bundle, put my hand behind his back. Here we go again, we're off to the races. So we got him. All right, so that was just holding his wrist. All right, now how else? Let's get back in the center a little bit. How else can we do this? Well, how many times, let's come up on our base for a second. How many times are we in a situation where we've chopped across and here's the way I like to grab this. I like to have my palm grab on the side. I don't want to be across the wide part of his arm. I want to get my fingers on the side, right there. So I'm gripping over that little finger blade right there, that bone, above his wrist bone if possible, toward his elbow. Now right there, I just grip with those 4 fingers, my thumb's just sort of along for the ride. Thumb's not doing anything. Okay, and as I block on this tricep, I catch this, or if I chop, any way I can bring this arm in to catch this, then I try to yank it up and pull it up here by his hip joint, so that I'm still hooked above his little his wrist bone, but I'm pulling that up by his hip joint. So that is what I refer to as a cross wrist situation, and we'll do something on that in a second. But I want to have you look at something here. You see where he is now. All I'm going to do, once I get it up to there, I'm going to block. I can neck pry here. I block with my knee, my near knee right against the side of his leg here. And I'm going to block, and I'm going to yank him right across in front of me. Now, once he's down, what do? I drive my chest into him. I know he's going to turn down. I drive my chest into him, post my hand, spin, get over here before he gets turned all the way down. Go ahead and start turning down. And then I come back and blast him, dig it out with my left hand catches the elbow. Here we are again. So I started that whole business from up on the base by chopping in and catching this, right here. Then I either did a neck pry. A lot of times I'll just grab the side of the neck, right like that. Look how I'm doing. Pull my elbow down over that shoulder, down over his near shoulder, and point it toward the mat. Block with my knee, and then just yank with both arms and pull him right in front of me. Now that he lands right in front of me, I know he's going to start going down. I don't want him to come up to his base, so I'm going to go bam right there, real hard. I push off my feet right toward his head, and then spin on that and dig it out and catch underneath and lock it. Any wrestler can do this. Anybody can do this. Nothing special, just gotta practice. Okay, now let's say, okay, so that's a far wrist thing. Okay, let's do while we're on the far wrist, I'll do one more with that. How many minutes now, Abe?
About exactly 1 hour.
Okay, got to really fly here because we got to get into our cradles and stuff. Let's say that I've got this guy down on the mat, and he comes back with his hand. I've got this cross wrist, and he comes back with his hand, and he starts to peel that off. That's what we want. Now this is goofy, but it works. I learned it from a guy who did it at college all the time, and he scored all the time with this thing. Now, as soon as he comes back to reach for that, I let him get there, because I'm going to take my other hand and I'm going to run under here and hook, and it's easy to do. Now watch what I'm going to do. Put my forehead right here, right by his armpit, right into his ribs. I'm going to get my body turned so that my rear and hip starts coming around toward his head, and I'm going to circle around. And for everybody, it's a little different. For every guy you do it to, it takes a little sooner or a little later before you start scoring. But if you keep your head here and keep hooked and keep hold of this bottom arm, you can walk around and get his shoulders to start being exposed. You're not going to pin him, but you're going to score points. So it's a sucker deal. Once I hook it, my head goes right in here. My hips start coming around, and there he is. He's starting to turn right there. Goofy. But it works. Now, the thing is, he's trapped. You know, he's got a hold of your wrist. Even if he lets go, he can't get his arm out of there. And so, at this point, once I start getting him back toward his shoulders to where the referee starts counting for me, now I can try to let go and come around his head, come over top. You know, just start working into some of our family stuff right there that we're going to be getting into even more here now. So that one right there, I don't even have a name for it. I learned it from a guy by the name of Mark Starr, who wrestled at Central Michigan University, Mid-American Conference, and he was very successful with it, so I might just call it the Star point getter right there, or tilter, or whatever we want to refer to that as. It works. Okay, it's easy to do. Now, we're going to do reverse half. So, Abe, I would like you to lay on this, yeah, just like that, face me. And let's say we're doing a half or something. Guy rolls through. I let go of my pinning hand and post right behind his neck here on the mat. Now I got two posts. This is my reverse half situation. See how his arm is caught. Now, what I can't let happen is his arm get down between he and I and come out of there. Can't let that happen. So I've got to be very protective of that by posting and dropping down on my thigh, right here. Or, if he's trying to turn real good, getting my thigh, let's turn sideways here, getting my thigh right up here. Now he'll never, see, it's right up by his shoulders. So there's my post, there's my thigh. He can't work his arm through. Now let's turn back a little bit. I use my other post. If I hang a guy and he's almost over, right here, I use this post here, and I keep moving it and adjusting it and using my elbow up under his top hip joint. And I walk back, he keeps trying to turn. Go ahead and try to turn it. See, and I can keep adjusting that right there. Now while he's getting his attention down there, I just circle this way a little bit, and I already am starting to pin him right now toward his head. Okay, now here's how I like to do this. Two ways. The simplest way is I've got him trapped. I always keep my post there. If he tries to slide down toward his feet, towards your feet, try to pull your rear down. I move my hand. Say he can't get. I move my post with him, so he can't ever get his head through. Number two, what I try to do is use my other hand, pull up. I could pull up on the wrist. I could scoop under the elbow, whatever. But get that arm up in the air so that this post that's behind his head can now come off the mat, put my fingers around and hook him right there at the armpit. Hook with that hand first. Then the hand that was pulling up on his arm slides right down on top of that. Just sits right on top of it and pulls together. Now, that's the grip that I'm going to stay with the rest of the hold. To pinning, I'm going to try to turn a little bit so I face his head a little bit. I'm turning at an angle. I'm not perpendicular now. I'm turning at an angle, turning my head sideways. I usually turn it away from his face and run up under his chin. Now in this case, if his head's turned over there, then I'll come right up against that jaw, right up in there like that. If his head's, a lot of times his head will be turned away because that's where he was trying to go, then I'll just drive right up in it with the corner of my head or under his jaw, but usually up into his cheek somewhere. And what I'm trying to do with my hands is just pull toward me. Pull actually up toward his face is what I'm trying to do. And then the rest of me is pushing right up toward his head, right here. So the near shoulder gets trapped. Now notice when I'm doing this, where's my thumb side blade? It's right up underneath his neck, right up toward his skull. And so he doesn't feel like bridging very much on that, especially if I'm driving up into his cheekbone here with part of my head, with my skull. And I'm pulling real hard with my hands toward me, and I'm just trying to make everything go to his face. Everything freeze right up at his face. I only got to hold it for 2 seconds, and it's over with. Okay, now, the other one is a little bit more to it, but it says the same principle, and that is he's trying to turn down. And I'll use this hand a lot of times to sort of trap that arm like that. Press it down and post it. So I'm using my left hand to press down on his inside of his right forearm, where he's laying on his right side on the mat. I'm posting it down, and the hand behind his head walks over there, palm down, and posts that down there. My other hand releases and goes palm down on the mat, and then runs under his arm and scoops up. I scoop up with my thumb side blade right up against that. Now I've got my one hand holding, the other hand is blade up against that, and I'm going to start taking everything toward his head again. I get in the same angle as I did before with my body alongside him. No matter where his head is, no matter which way it's turned, I'm going to drive up against one of his cheekbones, against the side of his face, and I'm always trying to pull this arm of his up toward his face. Always up toward his face. Same idea, I'll pin him. The only thing you got to watch out for in this one is, in fact, I use this as a counter if I'm caught in a reverse half. I'll put my arm back here for a guy to grab, even if he doesn't know what he's doing with it. A lot of times I'll grab it. If I'm in Abe's position and I want to counter that, as soon as he grabs it, Abe, straighten your arm out, duck your head out. See what's happening? Isn't that crazy? So he can actually start turning out of that because the guy grabbed that wrist. So, not many guys know how to do that. So, when I get this, as soon as I grab that right there, I know time is of an essence. I can't let him shoot his arm up. So I come right back. I might even catch with the palm of my hand on his elbow if I think he's going to do that, so that he can't shoot that up and duck his head out. So as soon as I grab it, I make a muscle. I try to stay tight to his neck in case he tries to do that, and grab this arm and start pulling it up. And if he hasn't straightened it out in time, now I don't care what he knows. He isn't going to get it straightened out anymore. And I'm going to pin him with this. I put my head right in there. Grip my teeth when I pin. Okay, so that's the reverse half right there. As long as we're doing the reverse half now, we're going to do another one of the family of holds called an over and under. Anytime you get a guy on his side, you can do an over and under. Now, Abe, turn and face me here, please. Abe's being perfect here, and this is not fun having guys work you over with pinning holds all the time. Now, where's the camera? Back behind you here? Yep. Okay, let's spin you around. Okay, I lost track of where we were. Now, I've just trapped this bottom arm right here, and he starts turning the other way. Go ahead and turn all the way through. Now, we know that I could try to trap him in a reverse half, but I can also sit through under that arm. I sat through. I still have my palm of my hand on his tricep, and look where my other arm is going, under his forearm. Never, 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 never get his head. Never go into this stuff. Because if I'm reaching for this and he takes his free hand and pushes me off instead. Now, if he's a wormy guy or if he's sweating and stuff, he may start coming up to his base and come around and score on me, and I got nothing out of that. In fact, I got reversed in that situation. So, and if he also knows how to counter head and arms, then he could get me in trouble with that too. So, don't do that. If you just go under here, you're golden. He is in big, big, big trouble. You could be here the rest of the match. Or you could pin him, either one. So this is called over, I got his tricep, and under, I got his shoulder, right here. And we never let him get this arm out of there. Now, if he turns away from me, we know that we've got a reverse half right here. We go right into a reverse half. That's if he turns away. Now what I have found a lot of times is, many times they'll turn towards you, and what they'll do, they'll take that top arm and they'll start pushing on your jaw. They might use their hand on that jaw, or on the side of the face, or on the head, or something, on the forehead, whatever. That's a mistake on his part. I hope he does that. Because when he does, watch what I'm going to do. Go ahead. Let's say you push on my jaw. And as he pushes, go ahead and push hard. I'm going to just make my head go around like this. Just go around like that. And I'm going to arch my belly up in the air and try to throw my belly button right on his face here somewhere. All the time, I'm holding on with my palm on his tricep. And I'm pulling with my fingers. Now watch this arm. Eventually what I want to have happen is this arm is going to be stretched out right along the mat like that, and I'm going to be pulling on it with my hand right that way. My elbow is going to be pointing toward the way that I'm pulling. My belly is going to be on his face, and this arm, this other arm, stays underhooked right there. It is the most awesome surprise to this guy that he could possibly have, because he will have both shoulders in the mat being pinned, plus he's being smothered. Okay? So, go ahead and start to push on me. As I make my head go back away, I lift my hips up and I throw my belly and I start pulling on this arm right here. So go ahead, push hard. And see how I'm starting to come? He loses his angle. And right there, as I throw my belly to him, he's lost all of his angle. Go ahead and turn your face sideways so I don't mash your nose too much. Okay, and I pull on that arm. It's just driving that shoulder blade right in the mat. I'm right up on his face and top of his chest, and I'm pinning him right there. He's got no bridge, no hope. Okay? Now, I have seen referees stop that because they had never seen it before, basically. And for some reason, they thought, well, it might be potentially dangerous because we're smothering the guy. Listen. You know, there's a lot of other holes that gets guys down under there too, where they can't breathe real well. And he's only gotta do what? Let himself be pinned for 2 seconds. So you're giving a man a choice. He doesn't have to fight it. And in my opinion, it shouldn't be called, because you're not putting your hand over his face, anything like that. You're throwing your belly on him. And so that's my opinion anyway. So if he turns, even if he doesn't push on my face, just the fact that he turns and tries to throw his arm through right here, again, I could throw my belly up toward his face, start pulling on that arm, stretching it right along the side of the mat, and just keeping his other arm hooked right here. And I'll pin him. So that's our over and under. Now, it's a wonderful hold. I can't be called for stalling here. I could stay here all match. And one thing that I didn't mention here that's going to be involved with this hold and the next hold is we're going to do what we call a tractor with our hips. And so as I've caught this here, I start walking backwards with my hips. I start popping my hips, popping my hips, popping my hips. So as he's trying to post his feet and turn or bridge or something, I'm always popping his hips sideways, knocking him sideways. It won't be long until he pushes on my face or tries to turn one way or another, and I can go into my pin. Notice how I keep my face forward. I don't want to be back here with my hips out like that on this. I'm not trying to go there. I'm trying to go bump back into him with my face down. And then when he starts to push and stuff, then I execute right there. So that's my position for that. How many minutes now, Mr. A? 1 hour and
15.
all right. Now, I'll do one more movement here, and then we'll get into, I'm going to do a couple tip-ups real quick, and then I'm going to probably finish with, I got to do a little something with chicken wing too. And then we'll get into cradles the rest of the time. Other pinning holds will be covered with like some of the reversals that we end up with. They might be unique to some of those reversals, that types of thing. And of course the leg holds that I've talked about. So we can fill up a whole bunch of tapes with pinning holds, but this will get you going. Now, this second one here that is going to do the scooting, the tractoring, is called a reverse bear hug. And this is a wonderful hold. You can pin an Olympian in this. It's that good a hold. It's just getting the hold and being patient and keeping your balance correctly. Your balance is your hips are always going to be tractoring up under his armpit. You're leading with your hips. You're bent forward, your face is down toward his belly button. Don't go the opposite way so that you can get knocked into here and take it back. You don't want that to happen. So you're always scooting up under his armpit. This is very deceptive. You won't understand how powerful this is, but the guy on bottom will. Okay? The way this works is, I might have done a roll and my arm may have ended up under here, under his back. Or I may have done a takedown. I may have done some kind of takedown, or we'll be in a scramble situation. Just think how many times you're parallel to the guy. You're in a scramble. All you need to do is reach around his back, put your palm against his back, and try to lean into it. Then as you lean into it, you're going to turn your thumb blade up underneath so it goes into his ribs and starts to bind. Now, the higher up the back, the better. But a lot of times we'll be down somewhere around the pelvis, the waist area, a little bit above. So I'm here, and by the way, I can do this all the time. Let's say I have this wrist right here. I just did some kind of roll, and I have his wrist in my hand over here. Left hand has his left wrist. Even if he's under me with that arm, I can reach over and do this. But if he's over me at all, it's really easy. So I could do it with his arm in there, with his arm out of there. I'll just show it to you with it in there. Okay, so right here, I just reversed him. He's on his side. I just put my hand, palm right to his back, try to jam my fingers under there, and at this point, I slide my hip down and push up into it. There. He's caught, and I turn my blade up. You could feel it, right, yep. Mr. A, when I turn that blade up? Yep. Now, at this point, I let go of the wrist, and I come down and lock hands over there, and I start tractoring my rear right up under his armpit, and I lean forward. Now, see, his arm is trapped in here. It does him no good in there at all. And I just start working around with my hips, and that'll screw his shoulders into the mat. Now, if he tries to bridge a little bit, I could slide, I adjust, and I slide my arm up as high as I can get toward his shoulder blades. Then I start going again, and then I can lift up a little bit, but I never lay way back. I always keep my face down. This is going to pin the man sooner than you even think, because you really can't tell when you're the one on top how much pressure that is on that man. But it's a reverse bear hug. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful hold. Just takes playing with it and understanding when it happens, when you can, you need to identify when you can reach around and do that. Okay, so that's another way. If the guy is laying flat, let's have you lay flat on your stomach now. Actually, let's do it another way. We're here. Same thing as I talked about before. I just did something here, and he's turned down quite a bit. See, I'm just going to put my hand palm down this time and put my fingers right there at the top of his hip joint. I drop down, drive up into him. See, and I still had his wrist. See, I just put him back over that thing. Now, I hold on to the wrist until I can get my hips way up under there. Then I can drop down and start doing that bear hug and start pinning him here. This is, again, it's better the farther up my arms can get up toward his head. Now, sometimes if he's over too far, go ahead and lay over here too far. He's starting to turn down on me. Then I'll just try to step back around over his head and pinch his head, something like that. If he ends up turning all the way through, go ahead and turn all the way through, and I lose it, fine, I let go. I just come around up top, and I continue to wrestle. Okay. All right. How's our minutes now, Dave?
Hour 20.
Okay. 40 minutes. All right. So that was that. Now I've got to do some tip-ups, and I got to do some, let's see, tip-ups, and I'll think of this, a couple chicken wing things, a couple special things, and then I could cover some other pins as I do a rides tape as well, and then we'll do all cradles. Okay, tip-ups. Here's my favorite one. If I can do it from the base like this, it's even better. What I have to do, let's slide over toward that side a little bit, because we're going to end up being right in here to pin. It's always on an angle, and if I've got a 2-on-1, and a lot of times if I chop and I catch a cross wrist, I'd really like to come in and let him pull his arm back a little bit and insert my other hand, so now I got a nice 2-on-1. And I get up and I spiral him down, break him down with that. But also, if I am good at this tip-up, then, and it's called a tripod tip-up, I will pin him right here. So this is another one of those deals where you don't have to break him down, you just put him over and pin him. 2-on-1, and if he's up like this, I can get my knee in front of his thigh real nice. My inside knee. Now, the way this works, here's your tripod. My outside knee is eventually going to slide out real wide and post. My head, my forehead is going to go out here and post right on the wrinkles. And my other knee will have slid under his pelvis, under his hip joint. It'll help kick him up in the air. I push off that foot, pry him up in the air, pry his hips up, and then step forward and mash into him up here. So there's my 3 points, my tripod. And actually, he's a 4th point here on his shoulders, and I'm looking right at him. I can see his shoulders right here as I'm pinning him. So that's where it gets its name, tripod tip-up. And you can do like 3 different kinds of holds to do this. I'm going to do it with the 2-on-1, okay, because it's so quick, such a quick hitter. Once I've got this trapped here, now I'm just going to simply slide forward, let my right knee go in front of him, and start throwing my left knee out. So here I am. My right knee is right in front, right there. That's good enough. My left knee goes out to the side. My arms go like a washing machine agitator, okay? And the outside one, the right one, will go up under his armpit. The inside one will smack down toward his hip joint. And it's a twisting motion, and I'm trying to make him go over his inside shoulder, across his back of his neck, onto the other shoulder, and be trapped up on both shoulders. Okay, so this is the 3rd type of a pin. It's not a twisting and it's not a setting, it's a rolling up of the guy. So outside knee flares out, I throw my head and shoulders down toward the mat. See, he's starting to turn right there. As I yank with my washing machine twister, my thigh lifts up on his hip joint, my foot's still on the mat over there, and I walk around and he gets trapped right there. And my step brings my knee and thigh right around, and I press in on my hands right there, and he's stuck right there, he can't bridge. Okay, that's called a 2-on-1 tripod tip-up. And it's very quick. Let's move back this way and make sure that we get that. So we could be wrestling, and he's just maybe fought up to his base here a little bit or something, and all of a sudden I slide in here, or I might even just come up in here. And there he is. You just kick him right up and pin it right there. And he goes fast. You'll have to practice to know how much to kick him without having him go over. Now here's the rule. If he falls over, you must let go. Do not ever roll with this man. Never, 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 never.
could be on your back. So what you do is, the rule is, the arm that's around his waist is the one you let go of. So my right hand is going to let go. So I'm up in here, I'm taking him over. I kicked him too much. He's starting to go over. I let go with my right hand, keep a hold of the other, and try to get both knees on the mat and reach over his head and catch him. Now I'm into what we call a front pin. I went over the one arm, under his head, and now I've got him trapped up in here. I pinch my elbows, turn my head, keep my knees apart, and just try to pin him here. What I'd like to eventually get is what we call double trouble. When I get over both arms, pull it up, lock my hands under his neck, turn my thumb side blade up, pinch in and drop my chest right down into his face right here. That means he can't bridge, and after a while, I'll pin him right in here. So I pinch my elbows. That's called a double trouble. We get into that different ways. Okay, that's the 2-on-1 tip-up. Just so you know, I won't do it with Abe, but I'll just show you the position. Just so you know, if I had this wrist, if I had a chicken wing, he's got such big muscles I could probably never do this. Couldn't get around him. And catch the wrist here. I can do the same with this as I just did with the 2-on-1. Same everything with this. Also, another way is arm to the crotch, and the same kind of thing with this, and try to tip him up. This one isn't quite as good as the other two. Okay? So there's 3 ways right there that you could do tripod tip-ups. Okay, let's see. There was one other, okay, a couple chicken wing things. What time is it?
Hour 26.
All right, here we go. Just a couple minutes on chicken wing. Let's say that actually, okay, I'm going to do arm bar again for a second. I'm going to do arm bar. There's chicken wing over the top, and there's underhook. An elbow, what we call elbow in the back, but the elbow really isn't in the back. It's the forearm. And when I do this kind of a hook, there's several things I can do out of this elbow business. I still got the bar on the bottom. Depending on whether or not I can get to his right wrist very well or not, I might just hook here, let go of the bar, change my hook, and grab that wrist right there, pull it back. If I can stretch this, even though he's trying to turn down, now I can walk around, feed it outside my hip, and throw my rib sideways in there. Look what I just got into. There's my post again for the reverse half, and there's my post out here, and I'll negotiate this for the reverse half. So I'll be working into a reverse half simply because I had a bar, I hooked, then I double hooked, it came down and pulled his wrist, and stretched it straight out until I fed it past my hip, slid in sideways and blocked his neck, and here we go. Okay? So that's that situation. Okay? Another deal is I've got the arm bar, and I'm going to do the underhook. And now let me see if we got space here. Yeah, I think we do. Let's move back this way just a little bit. Okay? This is an important one. Okay? When I get the hook here, I'm going to move forward, way forward, and I'm going to point my elbow down at the mat, put my chin on top of my hand, and try to make a spike going right down through his top shoulder to the bottom shoulder and into the mat. I still got the arm bar on the bottom. Okay, I can't let him get up to his base, so I got to really see how I'm really dropping my weight down on this and making all my weight go down toward the mat, toward my elbow. Don't want him to get up to his base. Now, once I spike him real good here, watch what I do. I keep all my weight right there, but I start to take my left leg. See, I'm still leaning on that spike, and it's a quick thing. I'm leaning on the spike. I keep leaning on it, and take the inside of my left thigh and put it on the side of his face, right there. As I do that, I can let go of my bottom hand, but I keep really leaning on the spike. This is a crucial part of this, because he's going to be trying to come up to his base. So as I flop my thigh on his face and let go of my bottom hand, which is my arm bar, I'm going to really be leaning. I'm pushing real hard on that spike. And right here, I've got that across his face, and this hand that let loose of the arm bar goes right through underneath that, right through, underneath his elbow. And I let go with the hand that was hooking, and I've got both knees, I'm pinching his head with both knees now.
The one thigh is across this side of his face, and the other thighs come up behind. So I've got his head trapped, and the hand that had the hook is here. Now, he's trying to get to his knees at this point, but there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Again, going right straight down like that spike is. I put the arm that went through there, just goes palm on his back. Now watch very carefully. My trailing leg that's pinching, I lift my knee up. I keep the first leg by his face. And I start sliding that. A lot of times that'll go right under his chin. See it? And I slide it. I never let his head out. I've got all that weight down through here. This hand comes off the mat, comes under, face lift. Right here. Lift, sit through, quarter turn, pin. Right here. Trying to lift him up a little higher than what I just did. Okay, let's look at it once more. This is a little bit more advanced. This would be for your better skilled kids. Okay, arm bar, hook, move forward. I learned this from Doug Blueball, if people know who that is, Olympic champ in 60. And he said 3 things. You've got to hook forward, you got to move forward, and you got to post forward. And that's that spike. 3 posts, or 3 forwards that you have to do. Then as you go to flop this over, you can start letting go of your hand on the bottom, thread it through, keep that post right there, keep pressing right down, pinch his head, post with the other hand, sit through, lift, 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 face lift, pin him, right there. So that's a nice little deal right there. Okay, how's our time?
Hour 31.
Okay, got to do a couple more quickies. All right, now, this one's called sunny side up. The way this works is, I've got an arm bar. Now, I could have also had a hammer lock, so lay on your belly here. I could have had a hammer lock too and done the same thing. Okay. Now, let's say I got an arm bar. I do a chicken wing on the top arm. When you take a chicken wing, just don't pull it, attack it, and get it way up in there. Hook above his elbow, and try to put your palm or fist toward his back. I like my palm a lot of times. Now, right now, I'm not ready to do the sunny side up because his arm's still underneath him down there in the arm bar. So what I do is I take my inside knee, my closest knee, and I try to blast him right in the pelvis and knock him off of that arm. And as I do, I press down with my forearm on the arm bar and pull the hand out from under him with my hand part, with my forearm part on the back. So they can't see that, can they? No. Okay, turn you over here now. All right, put the arm bar underneath. And I'm here. If I've got this chicken wing on top, all of a sudden I come up here, I blast right there in the hips. As I blast that, I press down on my forearm, lift up, and pull out on that arm bar. Now watch. I'm going to stretch it out like this. As I do that, this top arm is going to reach down, and I'm going to go palm out and try to get as high up toward his armpit and catch his muscle on the inside as I can of that arm right there. So I'm going to move up here, stretch, and I reach up. On him, it's sort of hard because of all that muscle there. Okay, now, a lot of times, turn back this way. So you can see how I've got it barred across the back. You'd be surprised how easy you can learn to do this, though. It's an easy deal. Now, usually this top arm isn't as deep now as I want it. I'd like to go almost armpit to armpit all the way through here. So I come up, once I catch this, and I come up, and I adjust up here. I cup that, and I yank and slide my arm up tighter, right here. Now he's trapped, big time. There's my spike again. Now, I can hold him all day with this thing. This is a good thing, especially if I don't let his head spin. If I post here, he's caught. He can't get out. Now, what I do is, see all the space under here? Put my palm under there, flip my thumb side blade up, and have it come up against his jaw, and I start lifting his head. And I'm going to bring his head up into my chest, and I'm going to get up on both feet, so I get my knees off the mat, and I walk around his shoulders. Don't leave one leg back behind. Get both legs out here, right behind your own arm, and start pulling him up towards your chest as you walk him around and set him up. So I'm here, I run that up under there, I get up on both knees, walk off of both knees and walk around. Now he's up on his belly. I mean, up on his buttocks. Oh dear. Okay, now at this point, once I set him up, this arm that had lifted him up relaxes and it comes around like that. And usually I'll catch him around like this. But his head might turn away. Doesn't matter. Usually I catch him in here like that. Now I just bring him back, back, and as I do, we're running out of space here. Let's turn this way a little bit. Once I bring them back to their back, I keep a hold of his arms and I slide my chest up onto his chest. Now watch what I do. I pull my elbow toward my ribs and it kinks his spine. And I'm laying on him, I'm holding his bottom arm and I'm pinning it. This is called sunny side up, his belly's up. He's being pinned right here. If he ever slides loose with his far arm, that's no big deal. I would like to have kept it, but I will come back and hook. I got a front pin, arm and head right here, and if I can work into a double trouble, I'll do that. Okay, let's come back out here. That covers some space here. Okay, so let me just hook you real quick. I'm in there, I'm in there. This would probably not be one I would do to Abe because he's too tight to get a hold of right there. But I'll tell you what, if I ever had it on him, he'd be pinned because he doesn't have any room to squirm. Okay, so I'm up in here, get up in here, and I start cradling this right up into my face. There he is. Now he's up. You may have to go around a couple times. Catch his head, pull him down, and circle toward his hips, pull this elbow in, get up on him, pin him. Right there. That's called sunny side up. Okay, how's our time?
Hour 36.
All right, here we go. Lay on your left side again. There's several more things with arm bars and chicken wings and hammer locks. We're going to have to leave those until we're working in those rides. I'm just going to show you one thing with the chicken wing that I really like. And that is, I like to jump over to this side once I got a wing. And if I get him trapped on his side, here's what I do. Post, stretch way up, and the secret to this is his dangling arm. If I can take my outside knee and get it past his arm, he's in a lot of trouble. Because what I do is I post, I lift, and I'll take the back of my shoe and try to clink it against the back of his neck here. And as I lift, a lot of times his head will come up a little bit, and I just clink it right there and put my foot flat on the mat. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to drop my thigh right into his chest. Look at how high my head is. Head and shoulders stay up. Now I've turned him. I'm scoring right now. I didn't try to figure four or anything like that. Don't ever do that. My thigh's right in his chest. Usually he'll try to roll toward the way I took him, and he'll find out he can't go that way. And so, well, actually many times, I'm sorry, the tendency is for him to fight back into me. So as I go here, he tries to fight back toward me. A lot of times they'll try to go that way first, majority of the time. If he rolls that way and then rolls back the other way, I let go and jump off and scoop up a double trouble. So as I feel him start to roll back the other way, there I jump off, right back over his head. Both hands, you see, are in his armpits. They're going to scoop up the double trouble, and I try to get around and lock my hands and pinch everything in. Okay. You can't believe how this turns a man just like a hot knife through butter. Okay. So I got a chicken wing. Anytime I can get under that thing, this guy's over. There's points right there. I got at least 2 out of this deal right now. And even if he turns the other way right away, turn back there like that. See, I can hold him pretty good right there. So this is a nice situation, very nice situation. Turn a man easily with that. It'd be dynamite and freestyle, wouldn't it? The automatic points. Okay. Now, again, many other pinning holds that we'll get to off of some of our rides and things. Now, I didn't even talk about maybe rides and stuff like that. Okay. Now, here's our cradle situation. What time is it now?
Hour 39.
Okay, got 21 minutes to do some cradles. Outside cradle, inside cradle is basically the way I like to look at it, but there's all kinds of variations. Here's something. Abe, lay right down on your belly. Want everybody to understand, most people understand about blocking the arm, cross facing across, and running a cross face cradle. Like coming down here and blocking that leg and lifting and walking around, taking the head to the leg. Thing of it is, you don't have to have the cross face. Once you realize that, this sets you free for outside cradles. Abe, turn this way a little bit. So, everything else is the same. All we've got to do, no cross face, we put our thumb side blade in the side of the neck. Never choke anybody, never choke anybody. But there I am. And what I do is I don't keep him in the same plane, in the same level. I'm going to be having him come up. I'm going to be lifting him up. I'm going to be cradling him to my chest. I'm going to pull his head up right to my chest. Which means I got to walk around behind him again. I have to post here with my hand, and I'll try to keep my weight on it, keep that arm stiff and everything. But at the same time, I'm lifting, cradling it to my chest, walking around just as if I had a cross-face cradle. Now, before we finish this, I want to explain something. Sit up for me, please. Sit on your rear. What I like to do in a lot of my outside cradles is, whether I've got it locked or not, many times I won't have it locked. We'll do that in a minute. I always want to be in a position, let's go to your elbow, let's say. He's up high enough right now where I could slide my knee right past his pelvis. See my knee sticking out right there. I always want to do that so that whenever I take this man over, let's say I've got him locked. Right, there's my knee. Whenever I take him over, he's going over my thigh and his pelvis is caught up in the air. This is on outside cradles for the most part. Outside cradles. Okay. Also, when I lock, I always try to lock with the hand that goes to the legs. And I always try to reach around above my wrist bone and catch my fingers over that pinky blade again, like that. Hard for him to get to this, and it gives me my cutter right in the side of his neck right there. It's not a choke. Okay, so I can pull that, and my head is usually in the other side, right there. So when I lock, I'm always grabbing with this one hand right there. It's all the way I lock. If I can't quite get there, then I'll do wrestler's grip with my fingers like that. Okay, so there's my lock, there's my slide, and as he goes over, I'm going to take this other leg and swing up and over his pelvis, or his buttock, right there. I don't want to go under him like that. I want to go over, because I don't want him to go out of my lap. And I'm just going to squeeze my thighs together, right there, and have my head in here. And right here, because of this lock, I can pull that cutter, hold him right there, and really cut his water off, but not choke him. Now, if something goes wrong, or I lose my grip, somehow he kicks out of this, this leg is not caught. So I can put that back on the mat for a post, belly up into him, and let's say my arms got broken, belly up into him, and re-grab a cradle on the mat, or grab his arms or whatever to work up into a cradle. So I'm always in good position. I just keep re-cradling the guy, just going crazy with it. Okay, so if I pinch in here, if he breaks that somehow, I can always push my belly up, post. Sometimes I'll get a deeper lock right here than I had to begin with. Or just catch here, or catch that bottom arm, or if his top arm's through, I like to catch in here a lot. And then I take him right back in some cradles. Okay, so, what's the time now?
Hour 44.
Okay, lay right back down, face to the left. Now at this point now, I can post and I can start working on it. I've got to elevate this just like I did in sunny side up. Get off of both knees, walk right around behind my arm, pull him right up to my chest. I'm up over his shoulders right now. Then I can take the hand off the mat that was posting and do the lock right now. Put my hand on him, take my time. There's my knee right past his pelvis. Take him up and over, pinch his buttock, put my head in there, pull tight on my cutter. And there's my pin right there. Now, if I don't finish the pin, if he keeps this near shoulder up, I'll get my points and then I'll slide away from him. Now, is the camera back this way?
That way.
Okay, okay. I'm going to do this so the camera can see. That good?
My butt's right towards
Yeah. Okay, now I slide away. He's got his inside shoulder up. Take my top knee, not my bottom. Top knee, find his cove at his hip joint. I want to press down. I can do that with the top knee. Down and away, making his shoulder drop down in here. But I got to keep my head in here to make sure his head doesn't slide out. But I want this inside shoulder to start coming down. Then I put my foot on the mat and slide it. Step again, press down and away. Step again, press down and away. Notice my trailing leg is always behind. Each time I do this, his near shoulder is getting closer to the mat for a pin. That's the way we finish, right there. That's the best way that I know. And I can usually get a pin with that. You have to play with that though. Okay, so that's one way we can start taking an outside cradle and we don't have a hold of anything else. Okay, another way is like this. Let's say we're riding here and he's posting. This is very common. This leg here. I double up my fist, I smash through and overhook his muscle here, his bicep this time. My little finger is right at the elbow crease. This is my favorite hold. Okay. Now, this is what I call a climb up cradle. It's a little bit different. I have to put my lead knee right at the top of his pelvis, right at his waist on the mat, right on the mat. I have to step up with my other foot, my trailing leg, and point my toe right at his bottom knee crease. My knee is up in the air. Okay, got to be this way. Don't try to do this if you don't get your legs right. If you don't get your legs right, you don't have the base. You can't do this. So I've got my hook, I got my knee and foot, just perfect, and you'll get so you can slide right into this. Now again, I slide bottom hand under his neck, up against his side of his neck again with the blade. So there it is, right there. And I throw my head and shoulders real hard, throw my torso without moving my feet and my leg down toward his shoe down here. I want to get him to sit up just enough so that I can slide my knee through. So I think to myself, sit up here. You'll be surprised how you can yank a guy up. And I sit through. I haven't locked yet. I won't until he falls. Ready? Bam! Right there. As he hits the mat, I lock. Way up here, I get a deep lock. There's my same finish again. Same principles. Okay. That's the climb up cradle. That's that arm hook right there. Let's say I can't get that, but I get his wrist. Same thing. Get my knee and foot together. Sit up here. Sit through. Take him. Lock him. Pin him. Right there. Okay? Let's say that he gets this arm out of the way, lay down, and lets his other wrist get too close. I got that. Now, come up to your base. People are familiar with arm through the crotch here. Fall down. Let's see if we get him turned. Same position, isn't it? Right there. Get your knee and foot proper. Make him sit up. Throw yourself. Set him up. Sit through. Here we go. Lock. Pin. Same thing. Okay. So, we can have some fun with that. Now, one of the fun things is, let's say he's got that hand there, and this arm's out of the way. Okay? So I might post that right there. Okay? Now, once that's posted, then I can walk around here and start going for that wrist like that. I got them both, don't I? I'm under his neck, so I get my knee and foot, and I pull. And there he goes again. Now, I wouldn't have held this. I would have let go and locked on the way over. There he goes again. Okay. All right, where's that tape?
Back.
Back here? Okay, all right. How's our time? What do we got?
Hour 49.
Okay, now, that's a little bit about some of the outside cradles that I do. I do others, but that, and of course the cross-face cradle, most people know how that goes. Now, one of the things that I do with the cross-face cradle is I do a whip back. And so if I've got this in here and I'm posting and this guy's really fighting me, and he's driving back against me and so forth, all of a sudden, in fact, let me think about this. I haven't done this in so long. I usually do it the other. Oh, I know. He's fighting back up and he's starting to sit through. He's starting to sit this leg through. All of a sudden, I come around him like this, take my hand that was posted, reach back under his other arm and catch him, and watch my legs. He's fighting, and I yank and drop my chest right on him, right here. And that's where all of his pressure was going, right back that way. So I dropped my chest right on him. I could possibly get into an over and under here, but at least I'm just dropping him here. I can start working on my pinning holds right here. Okay, so let's look at that once more. I got my cross-face cradle. He's fighting me, and he's starting to sit up. But all of a sudden, once he gets his shoulders up, and he's fighting back into me real hard, then all of a sudden I run around him, let loose my post, come here and hook, and I take my chest out of the way, and yank, boom, and it's a timing thing. But once you learn the timing, boy, is this a fun move, because he just fires to his back right there. But you have to fight him until that certain point that you can make your hips come around and yank him. Okay, so that's off your cross-face stuff. All right, enough of that. Now that's a little bit about the far side cradle. Now the inside cradle, we're going to do this one here, and let's spin you, and I'll get with my back over here and turn on your other hip. Okay, anytime I can catch him on his side here, I got a chance to do an inside cradle. Now here's the thing, I'm going to use my head to help fold him up. And I'm going to get at an angle. I'm not going to get square. I'm going to get at an angle to his hip like that. So my hips are up toward his head a little bit. I'm blocking with my head right there. I'm blocking with my hand here. And I'm trying to lift with my elbow up here, make him sit up. So I'm up in here. I might even get my knees off the mat. See, I'm really putting pressure there. And as I do, I'm going to lift with my elbow like I did with a hat. See, I'm setting him up, and there's my lock right there. Again, if I can lock with my hand that's going through the leg, that's what I want to do. If I can't quite get there, I'll grab fingers and do that wrestler's grip. So again, watch me. I'm up. There's my lock. Okay, now, once I've got the lock, I pull my head out. I don't keep it in for a pin. And I drop him back down on his side. Right here. At this point, I got two good choices. One is, I could hook this leg and pull it, drag it, and at the point that I really get locked up, I keep gripping up higher. Okay, get your bottom leg or bottom arm out of the way. I'm going to lay over on the side, and I'm going to lift his head a little bit, get my other leg. Go ahead and stick your leg out so I can get behind. I'm trying to be careful with him here. He's being real good, but this isn't comfortable. You okay? Yep. All right, and all right, get your arm out of the way. Get your arm, okay. So everybody can see. Okay, and I'm just going to walk and pin him right up in here. Okay? Doggone those hamstrings are. He had a big football game last night. His team won last night. He's a big star of the team and so forth. And I know he's tight today, so I really appreciate it. In fact, spin around now. Spin around the other way so I can still do the same thing. Okay, so I get under and I walk both legs like that, right over, do a front bridge, he's pinned. Okay, now I won't do that one again. Okay, now the other one is one of my favorite things, and it's called the crusher. Once I've set him up and locked this, I lay him back down, my head's out of there. Go ahead and put your arms through there. Make it a little easier on yourself. Okay. Okay, now at this point, I've got the lock. I'm going to drop down flat on my thigh. Flat on the front of my left thigh. Close thigh to him. Now this is important. Don't go sideways. Now I'm going to turn my rib sideways, but not my thigh. So that I feel his face, some part of his face, on my right ribs. I use my right foot out here. That can bend, and I push it. I I keep my other leg as low as possible and as long as possible. Try to make my thigh heavy and push on it. I'm going to push diagonally right up through his face with my ribs. I might end up doing a bridge over on the other side. I'll be very high, but he'll be very pinned, and he's got a lot of pressure in his face. He won't move. This is called the crusher finished. So I'm pushing, I'll try to be soft with my partner here. I'm pushing, and as I come over right here, I slide that knee up and he's pinned right here. Okay. You can't believe the pressure. Now, it could be that it'll be pressure in his nose, his eye, his chin. It's hard to know. But I will tell you what, he'll hold still. Okay, so very important, once we locked it up, that you go down flat, keep facing the mat with your lead thigh, push diagonally after you turn your ribs, so you're laying your torso on part of his face. You keep your head up, you drive right up through his face, squeeze, and you might do a little side bridge on your head here. But that's a pin. That's a pin right there. Okay, check our time for us, please.
Hour 56.
Okay, now, a little something. Okay, I do a lot of inside cradle stuff. As we do some of the rides, you're going to see how I slide in to the inside cradle thing. I'm going to do a little something real quick here. Let me think. I'm trying to think of what else to throw in here. I'm going to do a little something called a free leg cradle. And here's the way this works. He's going to be, I want you to just sit up for me. Is that the camera?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to be sitting side by side. Here's how you practice with your kids. Side by side, and we'll get into this later. I'll be showing you how to get into this off reversals and stuff. But basically, anytime you can step in here, he doesn't have to be sitting up. He could be laying down. Go ahead and lay down now. You know, and once I step over here, then I take my outside hand, reach under his leg, and grab myself right up under my knee. Now, I'm out perpendicular. My hand's on the mat, my foot's on the mat, ready to push myself up. If he sits up, go ahead and sit up. I push myself up, I wind up with this arm and coof him real good. Come in here and try to get a lock. And right there, I'm trying to lock way down on my hands. And here, sit back, straighten that leg up. There's my pin right there. That's a free leg pin, free leg cradle. Okay? Now, if he turns toward me, I just reach over his neck, keep a hold of my lock on my leg, bridge up, pin him. And it's a pin. And he won't fight much. Right here. Now, turn toward the camera. If he, how much time we got?
Hour 57.
Okay. If he turns away and doesn't sit up, I push up again and push him down. Now watch what happens. I keep a hold of my lock here. I pulse behind his head, and I actually walk across his legs here with both legs. See, I've got him pulsed here. He can't get away. Never let go of this. Never let go of your leg. Walk, 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 walk until you can lock right up here. Then take your time, swing your one leg back, put your other leg over in the crotch, pin him. And this one that I just did is very, very humbling, very powerful. Okay, so that's the free leg cradle. Anytime you get caught in that kind of situation. One other little thing. How's our time going?
2 minutes.
Okay. I'm trying to select some. There's so many. One of the things that I do with certain kids, just certain kids, get on your stomach here a little bit. Let's say I'll be riding with a hammer or arm bar, and I'll move my knees way up here, and I'll let go of the arm bar, and the guy will come up. I'll take all the weight off of him, and he'll come up, and a lot of times I'll slide my knee under him, and he may even step over me, or I might even hook him. So he stepped over me. Okay? I let him come up. And as he comes up, I run under with my forearm here. And let's move back to our tape. Got it? Yeah, a little bit past the tape. Let's go. Okay, I see where we're at. Okay, this is good. I put my one arm around his neck, let it hang deep. It grabs it just hangs there. The arm that goes under under him, grabs that wrist over there, grabs the hanging wrist, and smacks up to get his arm off the mat, keep my toe on the mat, straighten my leg out and stretch him. So he's stretched right now. Then this leg slides under, I roll him all the way across, and watch what I do at the end. I'm going to stretch him here, go all the way across, and right about here, see I lift that leg, cross my own leg. See, I'm sitting there with crossed legs. Now his leg's caught. Since I grabbed this arm that was around his head, I pulled my cutter right there, and I'm going to try to pin him. If I can't pin him, I'll at least score. So I got some good stuff. If he tries to turn toward me, I got my foot on the mat to twist down on his hips. Okay? Now go ahead and turn away. Does this remind you of something? I'm up in the free leg cradle, post his head, walk over, walk, 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 and then I can keep walking and lock that up and pin him. Right there. Okay, let's find that tape again here. Okay, how's our time?
It's 2 hours right now.
Okay, all right. I'll just keep going until the thing stops. Does it look like it's still going?
Yeah.
Okay. At this point, one of the other things that I will do, let's come up to lay on your belly, and you just let me know when it stops. If I ever hammerlock, right here, I like to have my hammerlock pressed down, just like that. And at this point, with the hammerlock, I will slide back, put my one hand palm down, run it above his elbow, and lock my own forearm, and I'll drive my chest up under that arm and let go, right there. Then I've got a face lift, leave this arm behind the back, lift, walk around, sit through, pinning. Right there. Still going?
Yep.
Okay. That's one thing with a hammerlock. Another thing with a hammerlock is I get a baseball grip, both hands, baseball grip, stretch it out over here. I try to get up here and go at an angle across his hip down toward the mat. Once I get it stretched out, keep both hands on it, slide back with your chest, get under his elbow, under his shoulder, I mean, and now face lift again here. But I didn't let loose of my hands until I drop my chest back there. Okay, still going?
Looks like it.
Okay, here we go. Once I've got this hammerlock, again, all the pressure's toward his head right here. What I'll do is I'll lift it a little bit, not hard, lift a little bit, and throw my leg over like I'm getting on a horse or on a bike and